Hello guys, and welcome back on what is going to be a fairly short video. I've been keeping an eye out on the Monster Hunter Wilds conversations and concerns regarding PC performance and requirements, and I've even made multiple videos looking at the game, built-in benchmark, the beta, and yeah, there is definitely some concerns there. Now, one narrative that caught my attention lately though was that some people are saying the game runs better on Nvidia GPUs, and then there's also some conspiracies that often revolve around this, like, I don't know, Nvidia's paying developers. Now, I don't believe much in conspiracy theories, okay? But I do enjoy putting them to the test when I can. And since I have an RTX 4090 and 7900 XTX, I figured this is a good opportunity to compare the two in the Monster Hunter Wilds benchmark. Now, we're going to make 3 benchmark runs, all focused on 4K and different settings. So let's begin. Like I said, the target resolution will be 4K, and for the first run, I wanted to max out all the settings. That includes ray tracing as well. And we're also going to disable any form of upscaling, 100% resolution scale with FXAA and TAA. So we have the RX 7900 XTX on the left and RTX 4090 on the right. And I'm using a Ryzen 9800X 3D CPU for both, so it's the same system, open bench. I've manually overclocked both GPUs. The RTX 4090 is an ASUS TUF model, and the XTX is a Sapphire Nitro Plus, which overclocks pretty well, and it's got a pretty aggressive fan profile as well. So if I was gaming, I probably wouldn't overclock it like this, but just to show what these cards can do, I've tried to max them out. And as you can see, this game is, well, it's very demanding, right? Especially with ray tracing enabled. And I'm not even entirely sure exactly what's ray traced. I think reflections is one of them. But the difference isn't massive, but the difference in performance is quite noticeable. Now, this one, I didn't see a massive lead for Nvidia. We ended up having 53 average FPS on the 7900 XTX with a score of 18,280, and on the 4090 we had 67 average FPS with a score of 22,955. So the 4090 is ahead by 14 FPS, which is around 30%, I believe. It's nothing unusual, really. But let's look at our next run. For the second run, again, we're targeting 4K, but we've disabled ray tracing this time and set the graphical preset to Ultra, which automatically enables FSR to quality and DLSS to quality. I imagine this is probably the settings that most people with fairly high-end hardware are going to use, right? Ultra graphical preset and DLSS or FSR quality. It does a pretty decent job in this game. Ray tracing, it's just an added cost that unless you have, high-end hardware, you're probably not going to bother. But with these settings, at least at 4K, we see both GPUs, including the 7900 XTX, be above 60 FPS most of the time. Although it does dip to the mid-50s just briefly here and there. Now, as far as the average total FPS of the benchmark, we had 80 FPS on the 7900 XTX with a score of 27,312, and on the 4090 we had an average FPS of 93 with a score of 31,744. So the 4090 was again ahead by like 13 FPS, which that percentage advantage has now shrunk even more, obviously, because we're dealing with higher overall frame rate. So I would say the 7900 XTX is doing really good here. Maybe it's RDNA 2 GPUs that are having a bit more of an issue. I did look at my 6800 XT in a previous video, and it did look like it was running a bit rough. But again, I guess we're going to see when the game finally comes out. But yeah, I wouldn't say AMD is at a disadvantage here. Not with RDNA 3 anyway. For our last run, we're doing the same thing as we did with the second benchmark, except for we're going with DLSS and FSR performance, ultra graphical preset, and ray tracing disabled. In my opinion, even with DLSS and FSR quality, I think both GPUs were good enough for you to enable frame generation. I just don't think frame generation is a good idea to turn on if you're not getting at the very least 50 FPS. It's not going to feel great. So that's why I didn't want to bother testing frame generation. But with DLSS and FSR performance now, we do jump up in FPS. We have the 7900 XTX average 94 FPS now, with a score of 32,245, and the 4090, I think it's becoming CPU limited because we only went up to 105 FPS. So 4090 is ahead by 11 FPS and a score of 35,712. So yeah, guys, very interesting. Just a quick video today. I was curious to see if Nvidia GPUs had some sort of an advantage over AMD GPUs here, and I'm just not really seeing it, not in this benchmark. Maybe in the beta, I'm not sure, but from what I hear, this benchmark is supposed to be the most representative release to the final version of the game, which we're going to look at soon enough when it comes out. But yeah, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. What are your results been like? I'd like to hear it. But that's going to be it from me. I appreciate you guys watching and leaving feedback. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.